Hi everyone. This is a video of the second chapter that we have for week one. That's chapter 3. So week one, we're talking about chapter 1, talking about chapter 3. In week 2, we're talking about chapter 2. Now week 3, and I'll do this every week. Week 3 has 5 objectives or things that they want you to understand. This is about intercultural communication. Understand the powerful effects of globalization and the major trends fueling it. Define culture, name its primary characteristics, and explain the 5 key parts of culture: context, individualism, time orientation, power distance, and communication style, because every culture does something a little differently with these. Okay? Discuss the strategies for enhancing intercultural effectiveness, reflect on nonverbal intercultural communication, assess how social media affect intercultural communication, and apply techniques for successful oral and written interactions across the cultures. Grasp the complexities of ethics across cultures. That's objective 4, including business practices abroad, rivalry, prevailing customs, and methods for coping. Your exercise for this chapter will cover chapter 4, cover objective 4. Okay. And the last one is explain the advantages and challenges of workforce diversity and address approaches for improving communication among a diverse workplace audiences. Okay, so here we go. So here's a little thinking box I call intercultural lessons for the world's largest retailer, which is Walmart. Walmart was forced to withdraw from its first European market, Germany, and lost $1 billion doing it. The company's culture does not travel. Walmart does not understand the German culture. The New York Times wrote that Walmart's foray or efforts into its first European market has become a template of how not to expand into a country. So they underestimated their competitors and the legal environment. Most of Walmart's blunders seem to be cultural. Top executives didn't speak German. Greeters with Midwestern folkiness was lost on the German employees. You know how when you walk into Walmart and they say, "Welcome to Walmart," or "Hi, how are you?" That's not something you do in Germany. A court overturned Walmart's policy against dating coworkers, and Walmart's anti-union stance didn't go along, where in Germany, evidently, unions and corporations work. They play nice in the sandbox. In Asia, cultural differences and fierce local competition forced the world's largest retailer to leave Korea to try and keep from getting heavy losses. Why would you buy a box of shampoo bottles? Asked a Seoul housewife. Koreans favor smaller packages and walk or take the subway to shop daily at stores. Consumers in this and other Asian countries don't buy in bulk. Okay, so you buy what you need for a couple of days and you go back home. Um, Retailers Tesco and Carrefour have already exited Japan. Walmart is currently, at this writing, holding on to its supermarket chain. Walmart's Chinese supercenters thrived at first because the country did try to cater to local tastes. Company. Now they're not doing so hot. One analyst, instead of adjusting to the local competition by shrinking the store sizes or selling higher margin products, Walmart is doing little to change its business model. Okay, so here you have a mega company, mega value company that wants to go into international markets, Germany, Japan, and China, and do it their way. The way they had it in the United States, the way that works over here in English-speaking countries, they want to keep status quo. And they're quickly finding out it isn't working. And so here are some things, food for thought. Okay, so learning objective 1, understand the powerful effects of globalization and the major trends. So Global Village predicted many years ago, making intercultural communication skills ever important. So to drive profits, many organizations are expanding. You will see U.S. chains such as the Gap, Subway, Abercrombie and Fitch, Guess, Starbucks, Apple, and KFC. They tried to join Japan's 5th largest food and retail chain, but they learned basically it doesn't work. So to go global, you have to do a few things differently. Coca-Cola battles Pepsi in India. And Frito-Lay pushes its potato chips in China. A Finnish, like from Finland, mobile phone maker Nokia ranks as the most trusted brand in India. Newell Rubbermaid offers stylish Pyrex cookware to European chefs. And McDonald's, KFC, and Starbucks serves hungry customers around the world. So they've kind of figured out, these guys have kind of figured out how to do it. Now, Ben & Jerry is a division of a Dutch multinational Unilever, and that's just happened in the last few years. Bridgestone Americas is owned by a Japanese conglomerate. Let's see. Your neighborhood grocery store, Trader Joe's is now owned by a German top discounter, Aldi's. Okay, so some of the American companies that want to go overseas are being bought out by international companies that know what they're doing. Then the next paragraph, Ford, Firestone, Coca-Cola, AT&T, Colgate, JP Morgan are now controlled by global enterprises. 7-Eleven, that started in the US, is now a subsidiary of 7-Eleven Japan, and it ranks as the highest grossing retailer in Japan and has twice as many outlets as 7-Eleven has here in the US. Okay, so you can read through here and kind of get how things are going and what you sometimes have to do to sell overseas. Starbucks. Starbucks is a truly global brand. It's adapted to different markets and it's modified its model to fit China. Introduced flavors appealing to the local taste, such as green tea. There's 500 outlets in China, more profitable per store than in the US. Outlets, meeting places for executives, gatherings of friends. Starbucks enters India. Instead of traditional coffee, young Indians favor cafe coffee days cold, sweet milkshakes and teas. So, okay, so they did it. As some companies fail, a whole bunch of the domestic international ones make it. So, favorable trade agreements, a significant factor in the expansion of global markets is the passage of favorable trade agreements. So there are some here. I'm not going to read through all of these because it'll take like forever. But you may want to be aware of them. General Agreement on Tariffs and Trades, which is called GATT. Open trading globally. North American NAFTA expands free trade among Canada, United States, and Mexico. For the moment, United States has 12 free trade agreements with 18 countries. Parts of the world formerly considered developing middle classes, once known for only cheap labor. It's expected by 2020 more than half the world's middle class is predicted to be in Asia because of the growth. Now, trends fueling globalization. Stagnating or declining domestic markets, so that you're not doing real well in the US, so you go somewhere else. Or you're not doing real well in your country, you go somewhere else. Favorable trade agreements and removal of trade barriers. Growing middle class in the countries that are doing well, like overseas. Advancements in transportation and logistics, you get stuff there faster and better. Information and communication technology breakthroughs help people find out what you're doing. The growing reach of information and communication technologies. It's saying technologies such as information and communication technologies change the way we live and do business. ICT includes internet, wireless networks, smartphones, mobile electronic devices, and other communication media. High speed, high capacity, and low cost helps put things out there. And workers have access to company records, software programs, and colleagues, whether they're working at home, in the office, or at the beach. So you can keep track of your company, can't talk, and how things are going, because just communication is better. Okay. There's all kinds of social media. You can see here, there's some examples of Twitter. Let's see. People are saying they probably shouldn't do things because they didn't realize they were doing on communication. I'm just glancing at it. The most notorious, let's see, Sweden may have gotten more than it bargained for when various Swedish Twitterers began airing very personal and inappropriate tweets. So far has been 27-year-old Sonia Abrahamson, who joked about AIDS and Down syndrome, asked questions about Jews, and freely shared with the world her inappropriate parenting. Another Swedish representative crossed the line of propriety with outrageous sexually tinged content. And so it's just people forget that you still have to be proper when you talk. Okay. So that's kind of social media and cultural networking. Some people think this cultural activity would be okay, and it goes everywhere in the world, and it's found to be not okay. And there's backlash on it. All right. Definitely a changing landscape of business and society. Career success and personal wealth depend on the ability to use technology effectively. Domestic workforce is becoming increasingly diverse. Let's look at the second paragraph. Because of increases in immigration, foreign-born people comprise an even growing portion of the U.S. population. Over the next 40 years, the population of the U.S. is expected to grow by nearly 50%, from 308.7 million to as much as 458 million in 2050. Immigrants is reshaping American and Canadian societies. Instead of the exception, cultural diversity is increasingly the norm. And we can all learn from our different cultures. There is no one right culture. They're all interesting. As we seek to accommodate multi-ethnic neighborhoods, multinational companies, and an intercultural workforce, we can expect some changes to happen smoothly. Okay. So now culture and communication learning objective 2. After this one, I'll stop this video and pick up with a new video for learning objective 3. So culture names its primary characteristics, 5 key dimensions: context, individualism, time orientation, power, distance, and communication style. So characteristics of culture. Culture is learned. Rules, values, and attitudes of a culture are learned and passed down from generation to generation. Like Walmart trying to take the American culture into another country, they're out of their generation. They're out of the norm for them. Okay. So in Middle Eastern, some Asian cultures, same-sex people may walk hand in hand. Opposite sex people don't. However, in the Western cultures, I've always found this interesting. If a person stands too close, one may react if violated. Okay. There was the Children's Museum in Indianapolis that had a display, and I always thought it was really interesting. They put footprints down on this display because there was about different countries, and it had like where the Americans stand in respect to, they had a fake entity at the end of the footsteps, and you could see that where you could stand as an American, you could stand here, but the next step was another culture, and the next step was another country, and the next step was another country. So you could see where the different countries didn't mind people standing close, or when you got close enough, you started feeling uncomfortable. So it's really an interesting thing to see. Japan, the original Barbie doll, was a failure because of her toothy smile. This is not a country where women cover. This is a country where women cover their mouths with their hands when they laugh. And then Middle East and Argentina, you can read that. It's a basis of self-identity and community. Culture is a basis for how we tell the world who we are and what we believe. Okay. North American make choices in education, career, employment, life partners. And that just makes us. Okay. Culture combines visible and invisible. The things we do in daily life and work are the most visible parts of our culture. The way we dress, our outward behavior, our body language. There are sometimes unspoken and unconscious rules about our attitudes and our bias and our feelings and fears. Over time, cultures change. Yes, they do. an ever-changing world. The American Civil War produced far-reaching cultural changes for both the North and the South with the advent of slavery. And so here, for the visible, dress, words, gestures, body language, outward. Invisible culture is all this down here, which is the upbringing, feelings and fears, beliefs and values, attitudes and biases. So this is what the world sees, and this is what's really kind of going on. Now, culture has 5 keys. Like I told you in the front: context, individualism, time orientation, power distance, and communication. So high and low context, it's something developed by cultural anthropologist Edward T. Hall. What he's saying is that communicators in low context cultures, North America, Scandinavia, Germany, depend little on the situation and shared experience to convey their meaning. Okay, so you don't get your clues from the area around you. In high context cultures, Japan, China, Middle East, much is left unsaid because the listener is assumed to be already contexted and does not require much background. In other words, they already know what's going on. They've got it. So let's look, comparing high and low. So right about here up through maybe Australia, tend to prefer direct verbal interaction, understand meaning at only one level, value individualism, you say no directly, and you give authority to written information. From about Central Europe out, okay, tend to prefer indirect verbal interaction, value group membership, rely more on context and feeling, communicate in sometimes simple and messages that aren't really super clear, which is totally different from us and a lot of these guys, Northern European. Individualism and collectivism is an attitude of independence and freedom from control, characterizes individualism. Low context cultures, particularly Americans, value individualism. High context cultures emphasize membership in organizations, groups, and teams. Time orientation, consider time a precious commodity to be conserved. They correlate uh, time with productivity, efficiency, and money. They do not like to be rushed. For Japanese considering the purchase of American appliances, ask for 5 minutes to consider the seller's proposal. Potential buyer crossed his arms, sat back, and closed his eyes. 18 seconds later, the American resumed his sales pitch. He asked for 5 minutes. The American gave him 18 seconds. So now we have power distance, first introduced by social psychologist Gert Hofstede. It measures how people in different societies cope with inequality. Okay. Western cultures, people are more relaxed about social status and the appearance of power. Sometimes I think depends on who you talk to. Communication style, people in low and high context cultures, which you can go back and find out. Say in this example, Americans and Germans, words are very important, especially in contracts and negotiations. The high context cultures place more of an emphasis on the surrounding meaning. Okay, so what's not said. North Americans tend to take words literally, whereas Latinos enjoy plays on words. Arabs and South Americans sometimes speak with poetic figures of speech. So if you're a company wanting to do business overseas like Walmart or just a herd of companies, you have to understand communication. You have to understand personal space. You have to understand all this. And when you design your store and put your people where you're going to put them, you have to do your homework and get prepared to change your American way of thinking to, if you want to make good business, to the country you're going in. And a lot of companies do not do their homework on that one. So we're at learning objective 3. I'm going to stop here and pick up learning objective 3 in a minute. Okay.